So imagine this, you've just landed the perfect supplier in China, your margins look amazing, and you place your first big order, but when it finally arrives in the US, bam, you get hit with a bill that nearly wipes out your entire profit. Worse, customs flags your shipment, and suddenly your goods are stuck in a warehouse in limbo. You can't collect them, they're stalled. Or the quality of the product just doesn't match the sample. These are all nightmarish situations that can completely happen to you when you're importing from China. So if you're thinking about importing from China, whether you're running an Amazon store, a drop shipping business, or scaling and selling private label brands, there's hidden landmines that you need to completely be aware of. And most business owners never see these coming until it's too late. So check it. I'm gonna walk you through exactly what you need to know, including unspoken rules and the critical mistakes that could cost you everything. Because the secret pro moves that you don't find anywhere else, we're talking about those in this video. And people normally only learn these after they've been burnt. So listen closely, because missing just one of these details can literally mean the difference between scaling up and shutting completely down. So let's be real here. The whole idea of importing from China is completely sold as a simple formula. Who wouldn't want to do it? You buy some product, you ship it over, and voila, you could just sell it and make a great margin, right? Find product, place order, ship, profit. Let's simplify it. But here's what actually happens. You become the hero of your own business story, believe it or not, facing dragons named customs, tariffs, and shipping nightmares. We're going to talk about all of these. And so the plot twist here, most guides completely gloss over the friction points where business owners lose money, sleep, and sometimes their entire business. So here's where most people completely trip up. Tariffs. We've heard a lot about them in the news lately, and they've been around since before this administration's in, at the time of recording this video. So you have to ask yourself, are tariffs included in your shipping price? Many Chinese suppliers will quote you a price delivered to port or door to door, but are tariffs included? 9 times out of 10, they're not. That means when your shipment lands in the US, US Customs will expect you to pay before any goods are released. You gotta pay the tariffs or the goods are just not released. Paying tariffs, completely non-negotiable. If tariffs aren't included, you're responsible, period. No ifs, ands, or buts. And if you don't pay, what happens? Your shipment gets held at customs, you rack up storage fees per day, and it's a lot. And in the worst case, customs can completely seize and destroy all of the import. So here's a pro tip that few people ever really know. Some freight forwarders offer a DDP, delivery duty paid service. They handle the tariffs for you, and the goods, when they arrive, are door-to-door service with no surprise bills. But these are rare, completely rare, and they cost way more. So always confirm in writing exactly what shipping terms you are going to be using and coordinate with your supplier what those are, so you're in the know whether you need tariffs or what you need to know, like we're going to talk about in this next section. So what's the next section? Bonds and legal requirements, just as important as tariffs. I know, because I have importing businesses that have a steady bond. I pay a lot of tariffs, and we've been doing this for 25 years with multi-million dollars in imports. And so for shipments over $2,500, US Customs requires you to have a bond on file. It's kind of like insurance that says you're going to be paying the duties and fees even if you don't want to. The bond's there because they will draw from that. No bond, your shipment sits, and it can even be returned to the supplier or destroyed at that. So there's 2 types of bonds, just to be in the know. Single entry for a one-time shipment. This doesn't mean you're going to be shipping and importing all the time. And then there's continuous. So a continuous bond covers all imports for a year. Usually the best deal if you plan to ship regularly. Here's the pro secret on this. If you're just testing the waters, ask your customs broker about using their bond as a fee rather than buying your own. So exactly how are tariffs calculated? Great question, and thank you for asking. Super important. Tariffs are based on the product's HS code. It's a global code for every product type, and each code has its own percentage rate. By the way, these have massively changed in the recent months due to the current administration at the time of recording this video. They will always change, and you always need to be aware of what they are. For example, some electronics may be 0% at the time of recording this video, but some apparel or tools could be 15% or higher. Then you stack on whatever country that is. They may have their own rate where it's a base of a certain amount. You have to understand this because tariffs are calculated on the landed cost of the product. That is product, shipping, and insurance, not what you bought your product for and then nothing else after that. It's everything combined. So don't assume that your supplier is going to use the right HS code. I'll be honest with you here because it happens all the time. Why lie? Many suppliers will try to fudge this code to lower your cost, thinking that they're doing you a favor and helping you. And guess what? You're the person responsible for it. If you're caught, you're liable for the difference plus penalties. They look at it as you're complicit and you're trying to rig the system. So here's an insider tip. Always verify the HS code of your product with a US customs broker. Never just trust the supplier's paperwork. Never. Now, here's where the drama completely heats up. Shipping choices can make or break your entire business. Let's talk about them for a second. Air shipping, UPS, FedEx, DHL, and air cargo. Fast, usually 3 to 7 days. Expensive, very expensive, especially for the heavy or bulky goods. And it's great for samples, urgent orders, or high-value, low-weight products. What's the surprise? The landed cost can double or triple the product price. Now, if you want my opinion on this, smaller shipments, you can use UPS, FedEx, or DHL. When would you use air cargo? If you're shipping something that's in a pallet. A massive pallet weighs a lot. You need it to get from one airport to another, and UPS and FedEx and DHL are going to be massively expensive. Those are the top tier. Then you have air cargo, which is going to be less. But if it's only a couple of boxes, shipping cargo is going to be more. This all depends on the size of your shipment, how it's packaged, and what you're actually importing. And now we have ocean shipping, but it's not as simple as throwing your product on a boat and then it just shows up in a few weeks. Wrong-o. There's a fast boat, which is generally 25 days, and the slow boat, which is generally 45 days. But don't quote me exactly on those days. Why? There is always a delay further, for the reasons that we're going to talk about later in this video. One of those is inspections, but I digress right now. Cheaper by far is this type of shipping. Ocean freight is going to be the cheapest, but it does take longer. The fast boat, it's going to be called Matson or Express service. It costs more, but it can save you weeks, clearly 25 days versus 45 days. There's hidden fees as well, overall with ocean freight. There's going to be port charges, ISF fees and filing fees, warehouse fees, and of course, delivery fees. There's LCL, which is less than container load, which is you're sharing a container, but you pay more per item. And then there's FCL, which is, guess right, full container load. It's the lowest price per item cost, but only if you have volume. So put it this way, my scoop, if you have a couple of products, you wouldn't buy a full container that would just house a few products. But if you have a lot of products and you need a full container, then you would buy that because it would be cheaper than just putting those products as part of another shipment. They have these packers that are overseas that take all these shipments and all the small LCL, they put them together, then they put them in a container. They're the ones buying the container. And so you're paying a smaller fee, they're racking up their fees, and they're making a difference between all of these fees stacked up for the individual shipments and then what they pay for the container. That's their business, they're packers, and there's a little bit more inclusive in the process, but we talk about that later in the video. Last but not least, you have the major carriers like UPS, DHL, and FedEx. Now, I touched on this earlier, but you may have been confused because UPS, DHL, and FedEx, they do offer freight and cargo. However, they do also offer door-to-door service on individual packages. So I did want to mention this here again so that you're aware that they handle door-to-door, but you need to read the fine print, because often customs and duties are not included. That's your responsibility on delivery, but sometimes they are. I just had a shipment that came in where I actually paid for UPS instead of DHL because UPS from my China supplier included the tariffs. So when it was all paid up, I paid one rate to my supplier. My goods got delivered, they cleared customs, I didn't owe anything extra. If I didn't do that and I went with DHL or another service, because each service has its own, sometimes tariffs included or not, you have to check. But if I went with the other service, what would happen is I would get the shipment on its way here. I would get a notice that says I have to pay duty. If I pay the duty, they release the shipment and they deliver. If I don't, they hold it If I still don't, they could destroy it or they could send it back. So we get to the best part of the video, it's the inspection part. I told you that there'd be delays on those 25 and 45-day boats, right? Well, this is them. Expect inspections. US Customs can and they will inspect your goods, especially if they fall into a high-risk category: food, supplements, electronics, toys, or anything regulated. By the way, if you're trying to import luxury items that are knockoffs, just don't even waste your money. They're gonna get caught, bam, they're gonna get destroyed, and you're gonna be out top dollar. So what are these inspections? Well, you have third-party inspections. Sometimes separate agencies inspect for agriculture, pesticides, or even safety compliance. More on that later. And if your paperwork isn't completely flawless, or if they expect or suspect anything by a tip-off or because it looks weird, you're gonna face weeks of delays in re-inspections or an outright rejection. That's right, they can reject it from even coming into the US. So even if you did everything right, random inspections happen, you need to plan for delays. And by the way, here's a tip. I just had a product that I've been importing for 25 years. Bam, just hit a pesticide inspection randomly. The HS code, which we always use, got flagged, and ultimately that went into a pesticide inspection. Delayed me a week, cost me lots of time in dealing with it with my office staff and the whole 9 yards. Had to submit documentation, but ultimately you never know when it's gonna happen. So here's a tip, pro tip. Hire a third-party inspection company in China before shipping. There's cheap insurance and it catches the quality and the paperwork issues before your shipment even leaves the country. I have more on that later. So what happens if you completely miss a step? Maybe you forgot, or maybe you intentionally did it, which I would hope not. Well, if you fail to pay tariffs, your goods are gonna get seized. If you miss a bond, nope, no entry of the goods at all. Pick the wrong shipping method, triple the cost or months of delays. And last but not least, if you ignore customs inspections and any paperwork that's required, you could lose your entire order. That's right, you're on the hook for it and you're gonna lose it. But if you do this right, you get your goods on time, your margins stay intact, and you have peace of mind and a scalable process. And you're the business owner that others come to for advice, kind of like you're coming to me for advice in this video, because I've been there, done that. So here's the bottom line. Importing from China really isn't hard. It's just more inclusive than you thought. And if you know the hidden rules and the secrets most business owners miss, you'll be able to calculate your margins and your time and everything else the right way, and not just the fallacy of put it on a boat, order it, and it shows up at my door. So remember, always confirm if tariffs are included. Never assume. Also, get your bond lined up early. Double check your HS code and pick the right shipping option for your business model. And always prepare for customs drama like I talked about. So most importantly, never leave anything to chance. Expect the worst. That way, if the better happens, well, guess what? You're ahead of schedule, you're more prepared, and you're in the know. And the difference between a thriving import business and not literally comes down to knowing what's below the surface, not just what's on the price tag. So if this helped you avoid even one mistake or gave you some insight on what to expect during the process, share it with other businesses. I encourage you to, because nobody should have to learn this stuff the hard way, and I definitely did. And if you want more details on the import process, the inside scoop, I dive into all of this, the services I use, including the quality checkers in China, and all the tricks of the trade from actually importing millions of dollars in product myself in multiple companies, some of these in 1 month. I explain all of these in the Entrepreneur Secrets School group. I have a link in the description. It's free as of right now. I would advise you take a look at that because I really dive in and I talk about what you need to know, what companies to use, what to be aware of, and so many more secrets that I wish I would have known at the beginning of my import journey.